Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we're here at the Best House where we are going to be wrapping up our last major detail on this project, which is the exterior siding. So we're going to be using LP SmartSide 8-inch lap siding. It's going to be rapid blue. It's not going to be a huge difference from the actual color of the WeatherLogic, I don't think, but it's still going to look awesome when we get all these details done. So what we've got to do right now is we've been trying to do as many preparation type details as possible so that now we can hopefully start throwing up siding. But the last major detail that we need to do, the thing that we need to figure out, is across this house, what is the elevation that is going to be our consistent go-to point, and then we're going to use a story pole to mark every wall, to mark every row of siding, to make our job easier. So yes, we are going to have some upfront work. It's going to take a little bit of time to do the prep, but any good job is always done in the prep work. And if you spend the time at the beginning to do as much of that as possible, I promise you the job will be easier, it will be smoother, and hopefully the job will be better. So let's get into it. Okay guys, the first thing that we need to do is we need to establish reference lines. And the reason for the reference line is because across and around the entire house, we want to make sure that our siding is running not only level on each side, but level from side to side, so that when we get to our corners, those lines will meet, match up, and look beautiful. So what we've done is, way over here in the back, you'll see the Rotary Laser. We've got the 350 Rotary. It's good at great distances. That's why I like it, because we can set it way back, and we can see all of these walls, and we'll only have to move it one time to the opposite corner, and we'll be able to hit every wall with it. So what I'm going to do is just take the receiver and I'm going to line it up, and I actually just did this. That's turned off right now, but it's just for reference, guys, no pun intended. But I made a reference mark on this corner, and what I've done is anytime that we run into any sort of wall obstruction, like this box is actually at the exact height of our reference line. It's not ideal, but it's no big deal. We just make another reference mark on either side of it. And what we're going to be doing is snapping a line, okay? That's the ultimate say-so for what we're going to be doing on this building, and it's going to be across all walls. So next to every window, next to every door, we've made this similar mark. Now, what do we do with that mark? Let me show you, okay? We're going to come back here. Greg is back here getting some prep work done while I'm doing this prep work, and we've got our trusty Stabila, only because it's nice. I mean, this was actually a little bit hard for me to do, but I went ahead and I marked 38 3/4. 38 3/4 is my reference line on my wall. That really is just based on the bottom of my corner trims that I've already installed. To that reference line is 38 3/4. Now what I can do is, this is a simple sider. These things are pretty sweet. They're a great little tool, handy for doing SmartSide. They've got a bunch of dimensions on it, one of them being the exact dimension that you need for your spacing around your edges, your trims, but also, and I know it's kind of hard to see for you guys, but they have a layout. So if you're using an 8-inch lap siding, they give you the dimension of each piece. So what we've done is we've started at the bottom, we've laid out every 6 7/8, which is the coverage of each piece. The important thing is the first one is 7 7/8. The next one is 14 3/4, which is not actually adding 7 7/8, but you got to remember the first one, this snap line is going to be the top piece, but we have to have a lap, so we have to shift everything down an inch. So if that makes sense, this is more like our Bible. This is the story pole, and this is what we can now take up to our wall. I can line up this reference mark to that eventual snap line that we're going to make with those reference marks, and I can come through, put a tick mark for every row of siding. Greg and I can snap our lines all the way through. We can do this around all of our windows, all of our doors, and what it will allow us to do is very easily come up here, install our siding to a perfect snap line, and we don't ever have to worry about getting up to a window and a door and trying to figure out, do we need to go higher on the left side, the right side, so that everything stays perfect. This right here is going to be, it's going to be our Bible on the job, man. We don't want to lose this. We don't want to ruin these marks, and we will always use it to reference every section on this wall to make sure that going across and around the entire building, everything is perfect. Hopefully that makes sense. But with this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to get some snap lines, we're going to get some marks, and then we're going to start putting some siding up.
Okay, yeah. I thought you had all your other marks. Yep.
Yeah, new snap line, dude. That is great. Okay, so now that we have our reference line, we're just gonna come through. In fact, let's use a Sharpie. It will be much easier to see. It's hard to see with that sun in my eyes. Okay, and now all I have to do is take this, and as long as I don't use the first one because this is the oddball starter, I can just go ahead and work my way right up, line up with one of these tick marks, and continue marking, and that's gonna ensure that I stay on a perfect, I stay right where I wanna be. Now, if I come through an area like this window, right, I can use this reference mark, make sure I'm running somewhat plumb, and I can mark where a piece is gonna be right here. So that's gonna allow me to have a reference when I go through this window that I can then just come up here and use this story pole. So I think you guys are gonna see this importance of the story pole. It makes things much easier. This all prep work, it all takes time, and a lot of people like to just get here and just start throwing up siding, something that I always did really up until just recently when I've realized the value of prep work, of just taking a little bit of time to slow down, get everything laid out so that you can be ready to go full steam ahead and be accurate and efficient. So I'm gonna go ahead, get all these marks around. We're gonna get a bunch more snap lines, and then we'll be able to start installing. I can see it. See, right now they look like confusing lines, but the fact is when we start putting the siding up, everyone's gonna make sense because, this reference line is gonna kind of disappear, but we'll have all these other lines that just every piece of siding just goes up to. And I don't think this is a lot of work, but I think it's a lot easier to install. Especially, I like Greg to be cutting, keeping me fed, and it's a lot easier to kind of hold up to a line than to have a tape measure or a little stick somewhere. We do have some other cool tools though that I will probably bust out that I'll show you, and they make installing siding pretty easy even if you're a solo operation. Let's rip this starter strip down. Let's go ahead and just rip them all up while we're here. Rip this whole thing up. Oh boy. So this is the starter strip, something I didn't talk about yet, and I didn't make a reference mark until later on my story pole, but the very bottom piece, we need to do a starter strip, and that's because lap siding is constantly lapped over each other, and it's on a slight angle. It's not flat to the wall. So if we don't put a starter little piece at the bottom, that's gonna give us a similar angle on that first piece. You're gonna see it's gonna look like crap. So we've got a 1-inch starter strip piece that we just used a piece of SmartSide for. So it's the exact same material, same thickness, same everything that's gonna be on every lap basically. So it'll give it a very consistent appearance. So we're just going ahead and taking our touch-up kit. Comes with, well, it doesn't come with it, but you can get it color matched exactly to the pre-finished siding that we're using. And we're just sealing off these cut edges, something you got to do with SmartSide. Okay. All right, so this first piece of starter, we're gonna just basically cover up this line that I've already established here. And this is what's gonna give us the first piece of angle. So this is important, and because we're down at grade, we made sure that this rip piece got nice and painted up. You know what I need, Greg?
Air protection?
Yeah.
Especially with that gun. That gun's extra loud.
This is the Tetra Grip nailer, and the reason we're really keen on using this is these nails, they do not require any stud for fastening. So it's a studless fastener system, and that's important for us because you remember our framing is horizontal. So from here to this framing here, this is all just sheathing, and we're not gonna have any studs to connect to. This nail is perfect for us in that application. It's kind of like a scrail almost. It's like a little mini screw for wood. Okay, first piece of siding, let's go, Greg.
start with the full?
I say so, yeah. We don't have to worry about any studs or nothing, so let's start with a full. Oh, this is exciting, huh? Let me grab my simple, oh, I got it on me. Boom. Simple cider, perfect spacing off the trim. Greg, we're gonna basically see.
Yeah, we're gonna go right to the bottom side of that.
Yep. So now, if we're doing a studless fastening, we're 8 inches on center. I'm gonna basically go the dimension of this gun. You can see that line, right?
Yes. Probably want to dial it back a little bit.
Nah, that's me, dude. That's all me. See, I can make it perfect or not. You just go to that end there, big dog. Just make sure we're right where we want to be.
Right where I want.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So look at this. This is what we call SmartSide ExpertFinish with lap. So it has a like half lap joint, and this is what's getting away from needing to worry about any flashing or caulking or those H clips that kind of cover up the joint. It's a pre-finished look. It reduces the depth of that joint, and this is important because SmartSide can grab moisture. It's a wood product, so it can grab moisture from the air and it can expand, and this is going to leave it from buckling. When you put wood joints tight, you have issues. So don't worry, that is not going to be an ugly thing. When we're done with this, we'll step back, and I promise you, you won't even really see those joints. So, all right, that's the first row. Now we need to come up with a stagger so it doesn't look like we manufactured the stagger, like it's just natural. And yeah, pretty simple, man. Okay, so we're figuring out this pattern here so we don't have a pattern. And I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna, instead of, I don't like it when I go by somebody's house and I see this stair step pattern. It's very easy to just go ahead and cut like 16, 14, 12, 10 and just install them. But then you have this randomized pattern that shows up and it looks like a dang stair step going up your wall. So I try to kind of like break around, do a little bit of a different, you know, joint pattern and try to make it randomized. So I think what we're gonna do is a 12, then I'm gonna come back here, I'm gonna put like a 4-footer, then we're gonna come out to an 8, and then we're gonna jump back out here, but we're gonna offset it so that we don't want all these lines lining up. Take it away from a viewpoint on your eye, but I just don't have it quite figured out exactly what we're gonna do, so.
We do like a 13, 9, 5. Try to say that like the 4-foot increment.
We could,
That way it's just like slightly off.
but see, I feel like when we do that, if we go like 13, 3, see what I'm saying? So it's not like we're always shifting and doing the exact same pattern. We're like randomizing it, because the nice thing is this is a 32-foot wall. These panels are 16 foot long. So every row is 2 pieces. No matter how we do our joint, we'll have a starter, we'll have a full, and then we'll have a finishing piece. So I think you just do whatever and let your brain just run free, dude. You know, don't think about it, but let's do like in groups of 3, in a 12, a 4, an 8, but then maybe go.
So we'll do a 13, 9, and 5.
Yeah, but don't go.
Stays like, or do you want it like?
But don't go and add 1 foot to every cut, subtract a foot to some of the cuts. You see what I'm saying? So it's random on that pattern. I think you're gonna do a great job, man. See, these Gecko gauges are perfect. They hold it right where I want it to be, but I always just double check in case this moves around. You don't want to just 100% rely on the gauge. And then you can just take it off, and then we're gonna move it for this 4-footer here, like that. Oh man. And I could just move it right where I'm gonna start. Make sure I'm on my mark. When I get to these small pieces, I can just hit both ends real quick and then come through and hit the middle. All right, now, I've got my Gecko gauge way over there holding up the sheet. I got my first nail. The SmartSide will have some sag in it because it's 16 feet. So I always like to just kind of come through and maybe like every 4 feet, just go ahead and make sure that I'm on my mark. And see, sometimes these gauges just, if I don't, I'm just doing it to hold it. It's not to place it exactly where I want it. And once I get it to where I don't need this to hold it up anymore, I'm just gonna take them out of there because they're not super accurate tools. However, these simple siders is kind of a pain, and this is how we started off, but they're made with a little piece that screws in here, and it holds your siding right at the right height. So if you're, these are a great little simple cheap tool to have. They can do a lot of things, but I find that these snap lines and a Gecko gauge just holding up my edge is probably the fastest way to stay as accurate as possible. Okay, Greg, what do you got for stagger, buddy? Okay, so when measuring for SmartSide, we go tight. Greg, we're 88 and 5/16. 88 and 5/16. Yep, and then that's a tight measurement. And then we're gonna take off 3/8. That gives us the appropriate gap here and the appropriate gap there, which is supposed to be 3/16. So that's what we do whenever we measure. So this is our first penetration. Greg gave us a nice little cut. We got it painted. And what I did here was just use some Fentrum. We could flash this. Typically, I would want to use like one of the accessory blocks for SmartSide. I would have mounted that block here, and then the customer could have came in and done their power box for their AC unit. Problem was it was already done, and the decision was made to just go ahead and, Greg, we got to do a little bit more cut, my guy. Yeah, just a little bit more, man. Otherwise, it looks really beautiful, dude. Everything is just great, but need a little bit more depth, maybe. So we probably should have went with 1 1/4, not 1 1/8. That's on me, I'll take that. I didn't want a huge gap there. But anyway, so penetrations, you obviously got to make sure that you flash them and do something so water doesn't get behind, and it's not going behind that Fentrum. That stuff's awesome. All right, let's try this again with a fresh cut. Okay. Nice and lined up. And so this gap right here, that is what will be maintained for expansion contraction, and then it will also get caulked. We'll do all that later. And that was the last of my nails. Dang it. So this is one of those instances where it's just easier sometimes to put your piece up. You can make sure it's running level because we've got all these lines. And I'm just going to, well, now this is a little bit unique, Greg, because it's kind of thick at the top. So we're actually gonna maintain this as much as we can. It's gonna be tight at the very, very top, but it's gotta get around this top lid, and then we don't want it super gappy here. So, all right, there's the marks. That's what we're gonna cut it at. Take that, and I'm gonna get my cut depth. Got it? Yep. Okay. So, problem. I can't see my line through right here. Man, if only I had a third hand right here. Oh, hey camera guy. Right there. Nice. Hey, that worked out pretty good. That's the top, so that's what I'm going to measure off, and I'm going to keep this up 3/8 of an inch. So, let's go 1 1/8. You always want to have 3/8 of an inch clearance over top of anything like this. You don't want to be too close to it. I think it would probably be okay, but that's what they call out. So, you know, if ever there were to be any sort of warranty claims, you want to obviously follow the installation sheet. So we're going to go 3/8. 1 1/8, Greg, down. It's going to be pretty snug.
Yeah, maybe too snug.
It's tight at the very top. You tell me? I mean, that's where it's at, right?
I mean,
I'm right on my mark.
probably where we want it.
Yeah, okay. Yep, 3/8 of an inch seems like a lot, but that's what they call for. And this next piece is going to be right here anyway, ain't it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. Okay. All right, so we're at the point, guys, where we're going to be running out of our marks. And I know we talked about this being like our Bible. It's got all of our spacing. What I'm going to do now is just randomly find the closest mark that I've got lined up. And then I'm going to come through and continue to mark up my lines. What's nice is, as I come over here to this window, I've also got to get lines through here. Well, I can just easily line this up, make my marks, and then I can make those snap lines, and I can ensure that when I put this piece of siding right here, the piece of siding that I'm going to put on the other side will be the exact same elevation because it's all off of these reference marks with the story pole. So I just want to hammer that in. This is prep work. It takes time. It's not as easy as just throwing the siding up, but it makes the job much easier. So there we go. We're going to get these lines snapped, and then we're going to work through these windows. Good enough? Yeah?
Yep.
You reach it? We'll have to do a little, we'll probably have to do, we'll have to do something. We can't just run a full because it'll be all weird.
We'll have to put like
I need to go up.
Oh.
But what's your joints? This looks really tight over here.
I've got probably a good quarter here.
So that's where it's going to go.
I mean, I like my side.
What's my side look like? I can't see. Okay, slide her out. Here. Come out a little bit more. Come out. I meant like out, but that's cool. All right. Let's go ahead, man. Dab that sucker up. It's too much. Something like that.
Yeah, that'll work.
That work for you? Okay. That ain't 8 inches, bro. I mean, you're getting,
That's more like 9.
yeah, you're getting a little stretched out. That's like 10 and a half, yeah. Let me show you what 8 inches looks like. All right, now that we got this side done over here, we're gonna be coming around this corner, and I think there's some things that I wanna show for the start of a siding job. First thing is, since we have a concrete porch here, we need to make sure that we flash that appropriately, and that is because SmartSide does not want your SmartSide, so LP does not want your SmartSide touching your concrete right next to your concrete. They want a barrier because concrete does hold moisture, and this is still a wood product. So what they want is a piece of metal flashing, or you need to be at least an inch above, I think it's an inch above concrete, or 6 inches above bare grade. So if we were out here by the dirt, you need 6 inches of space between dirt and wood. So what we're gonna do is use this piece of aluminum flashing. I'm gonna nail this on because I want to be closer than 1 inch. I'm gonna be like 5/8 of an inch. So something to remember, don't always put your SmartSide directly onto the concrete. The other thing is, you can see we've got all of our reference lines based off of that initial laser, and I'm hoping that you guys are gonna see as we start this area, we're gonna be able to naturally line up with the siding pieces on that other corner. So let's go ahead and get started on this. We'll get some siding up, and then we'll come back and show you, I guess, how it's all going. we're just gonna push this right down to the concrete because we're not looking for level. Our siding will be level. We just want it to be nice and tight and look good when it's all finished. And then the next thing I'm gonna do as I put this stuff on, I'm just gonna come through and I'm gonna make sure this is flashed just to obviously keep any water from going back in here and sitting, even though it probably could work its way right under here, but we're not that concerned. It's concrete to concrete, so. Want to help me snap this line, Greg? Oh, you're the man. Oh, that's low, huh?
That's pretty low.
Yeah.
Should hit the top of that.
Yes, sir. Okay. This first one, Greg, we're gonna cover the line. Cool, thanks, man. You know what? Wait, let's see. Greg, what's this side look like?
You got probably like about an eighth. Maybe.
So that's a good gap?
It's more like probably twice the size of that.
I don't know. I don't know, dude.
You add, like, make it bigger.
Well, I did make it bigger an eighth, yeah. I went to my mark and I made it bigger an eighth on each side. So you're saying my right side was good?
The right side was about an eighth.
That's okay, I want an eighth. Ooh, it's something. Now the goal here is gonna be, I'm not gonna look yet just because I feel like it should work. But normally in this instance, I wanna make sure that my siding is looking in the exact same line going around the corner. And back in the day, I would hold up a piece, I'd stand on the corner and I'd kind of make sure that everything was perfect. But I've spent the time Greg and I did early to do all these reference lines. So I'm gonna kind of live by them, and hopefully when this is all said and done, I'm not regretting that decision and everything looks perfect. So let's just throw these 4 pieces up real quick and then we'll take a look. Oops. All right, how did we do? So we take a step back. And I mean, you know, lasers don't lie, but this is why it's so important to do your layout in the beginning, because you don't have to work hard to make things look right. All of my windows, they're all gonna be the exact same because the windows were set off a laser, the siding was set off a laser, the layout was done consciously so that everything makes sense. And one of the things a wise person once told me is that a job well planned is a job half done. And what that means is the bulk of the work, the hard stuff, you put it all at the beginning, make sure that it's right, and then the rest of it will be easy. So going back to kind of the theme of this video, which is layout, which is prep, I hope that this helps you understand why all these lines do make it a lot easier, because I don't have to visually inspect and try to make things perfect. Around this whole building, every one of my corners is gonna be perfect on every line because they're all transferred off of that story pole. So this makes me feel good. Keep siding, I guess. It looks nice though, I like it. So you guys, we've got, now that this is set up and we're going up, it's a lot of repetitive nature. We're just gonna be cutting and fitting pieces in, and we're gonna be nailing them all to our snap lines to make it super easy. So for this video, this is kind of more set around the start of a siding job, how we start, how we set up, and how we try to be as efficient as possible throughout the job. So hopefully this helps some people maybe feel good about doing their first job, or maybe just making their next job a little bit better. But we're gonna go ahead and keep working. We're gonna start probably, maybe we'll throw the time-lapse camera up and just do a bunch of install, and that'll kind of wrap up this video. But we've got more siding content I want to talk about how we flash the windows, how we do a gable, whatever else I think might help you guys on a job. We'll put that into video too, so we don't get running on too long. So if you guys enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up, and even maybe throw some comments down below, questions that you might have about siding, this process, things I missed. I'd love to see that too. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and keep working. We'll roll this into time lapse, but I'll catch you guys on the next video. 4 5/8 down.
Here's one. The other one at these mountains. Yep, these bigger.
I'm gonna cut out 4 5/8 down.
Go grab the tracks off.
Okay. Honestly, I totally lost track of that. Sounds good, dude. Keep cutting, man. I'm gonna be waiting on you probably. Now we're gonna do a 16 here, but we want to come from this way, right? No.
If you're gonna do a 16, you want to measure back and then get your measurement to your 16.
I want to come. No, I want to come this way. We're just gonna underlap it.